So let's talk about reverse engineering. It's this incredibly powerful skill in cybersecurity, used for everything from taking apart malware to finding really critical vulnerabilities. But how does it actually work? Well, let's dive in and find out. You've been there, right? You run some program, maybe it's a challenge from a CTF or just some software you're curious about, and bam, you hit this wall. Access denied. It's just a digital black box. So how in the world do you figure out what's really happening on the inside? Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We are putting on our digital detective hats to take on a program that's been locked down tight. And we're not just looking for one way in. Oh no. We're going to uncover 3 totally different methods to crack this thing wide open and see what secrets it's hiding. All right, so our target is a program called Go Crack Me 1. It's a classic challenge from a Capture the Flag competition. It's written in Golang, and no surprise, when you run it, you get that hard stop, access denied. Our mission is simple. We have to get past that wall. And the skill we're using here is called reverse engineering. I mean, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the art of taking a finished product, in our case, a compiled program, and working backwards to figure out how it ticks, all without ever seeing the original source code. Just think of it like being handed a locked safe and figuring out the combination just by studying the gears inside. Now, any good detective needs a toolkit, right? You don't just show up empty-handed. A reverse engineer is exactly the same. To really tackle this challenge, we need a very specific set of tools to see what's going on under the hood. Our toolkit basically has 3 crucial pieces. First up is the disassembler. This is kind of like our set of blueprints. It turns the raw machine code into something a human can actually read, called assembly language. Then we have the debugger. Think of this as our magnifying glass. It lets us run the program one step at a time and see exactly what it's doing. And finally, the decompiler. It's like a translator that tries to take that assembly code and turn it back into the original language it was written in. For this, we're going to use a tool called IDAPRO, which is awesome because it has all 3 of these built right in. Okay, method number 1. This is what's known as static analysis. What that means is we're going to analyze the program's code, its blueprints, without ever actually running it. We're just looking for clues in the structure itself. And after digging through those blueprints for a while, we find our first big break. It turns out the program is hiding its secret using a really simple cipher. It's an XOR operation, which is just a basic way to encrypt things by flipping bits. You can think of it like a secret decoder key. And in our case, the key is the value 56. This is the lock we need to pick. So here's what we've got. We have the 2 pieces of the puzzle. On one hand, inside the program, there's this string of what looks like total gibberish. That's our encoded data. And on the other hand, we have the key to unlock it, that XOR 56 operation. And this is the cool part. We don't even have to run the program. We can just take that scrambled data, apply the XOR 56 key ourselves, and boom, the hidden flag just appears. Method 1 complete, done and dusted. But what if we hadn't spotted that cipher in the code? Well, that brings us to our second method, dynamic analysis. This time, instead of just reading the blueprints, we're going to fire this thing up under a microscope and actually watch it work. So here's the game plan. We use our debugger to set what's called a breakpoint, which basically pauses the program right before the important stuff happens. Then we step through the code one instruction at a time, kind of like watching a movie frame by frame. And as we're doing this, we're keeping a close eye on the CPU's registers, which you can just think of as the CPU's short-term memory. It's Scratchpad, where it does all its work. And this is where the magic happens. As we step through that decryption loop, we can literally watch the flag get built, character by character, right there on the CPU's Scratchpad, specifically in a register called racks. The program does all the work for us. It decrypts the flag right in front of our eyes. We just had to be watching at the exact right moment. 2 solutions down. But you know what? There's an even more direct, almost aggressive approach we can take. For our third method, we're not just going to read the code or watch the code. We're going to change it. This is called patching, or as I like to call it, rewiring the machine. See, the program's entire logic comes down to a single if-then decision. The original code has an instruction, JZ, that basically says jump if 0. Or in plain English, if the check fails, jump to the access denied message. So what do? We just flip it. We patch that one instruction to JNZ, which means jump if not 0. Now the program will jump to the access denied message if the check passes. We've basically rewired its brain to do the exact opposite of what it was designed to do. And the result of this tiny, tiny change? Well, it's night and day. Before our patch, we run the program, we get access denied. After patching a single byte, we run the exact same file and it just spits the flag right out onto our screen. We didn't bother decoding anything, we just forced the program to give us what we want. So, okay, we cracked one program in 3 different ways. It's a fun puzzle, for sure, but this goes so far beyond just games and challenges. Let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture and why this skill is just so incredibly important. I mean, think about it. These skills are fundamental to cybersecurity. When analysts are fighting the latest malware, they are using reverse engineering to figure out how it works. When researchers find security flaws in the software you use every single day, they're using these exact techniques to find those holes before the bad guys do. It's used everywhere, from developing exploits to just making 2 different devices talk to each other. So think about what we just did. We came at this problem from 3 completely different angles, right? We analyzed the static code, we watched it while it was running, and we even changed how it works. But every single road led to the same answer. In a way, reverse engineering gives you the power to make any program open source, letting you peek inside whether the creator wanted you to or not. And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending thought. If any compiled code, no matter how complex or secret it's supposed to be, can ultimately be taken apart, understood, and even changed, what does that really mean for the whole idea of a digital secret?